In the year 1995, I went from being a wallflower to a ballroom dancer, and along the way, I invented the Macarena. I'll get to that later. In 1995, I was just finishing up 10th grade. I was a nerd as a student. I was the kind of kid who would ask his teacher for extra assignments just because I felt like I wasn't being challenged enough. Didn't really do too much in the way of athletics, and I'd been a transplant to my school. I'd come in 7th grade, and so I always felt kind of like on the outside. And whenever it came to school dances, I always kind of just sat in the tables in the back and never really got on the dance floor. I would dance plenty in my own room to They Might Be Giants music and Peter Gabriel and Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Nerd, really liked that kind of classical music. But when it came to school events, I just never really felt confident. And then came the summer of 1995, and I got to go to an academic summer camp called the Center for Talented Youth in Dickinson, Pennsylvania. There was Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And out there were people just like me, masochists, who considered writing personal essays to be a fun way to spend your time. And I got to surround myself with these people. And every weekend we would have dances. And for the first time in years, I was able to completely cut loose because I was around people like me who were all newbies, all nerds, all self-admittedly uncool people. And we just had a great time dancing. Now, my teacher that summer for personal nonfiction writing was the youngest teacher I'd ever had, and by far the one I had the greatest crush on. Her name was Jen. She was the first teacher I'd ever had who had a nose ring. She had close-cropped brunette hair, and she wore jeans to class, which was a real turn-on for me. And Jen, whenever the dances would come, would get on the dance floor as if she was one of us, which was crazy to me. So I paid a little bit of attention to her whenever she got out. And there was this one song that came on every weekend called Your Own Personal Jesus by Depeche Mode. And when Your Own Personal Jesus came on, Jen did this thing where she looked off into the distance, and she began making these motions that looked to me a little bit like a hokey pokey and a little bit like a funky chicken, but not quite either. And, Jen being quite hot and charismatic, I and many others lined up alongside her and began imitating. So over the course of weeks, this became, to me, the Your Own Personal Jesus dance. The summer of '95 ended. I came away with a bunch of new friends and newfound confidence for myself on the dance floor. However, junior year was now coming up, and junior year presented a new challenge, which was the junior formal. Sorry. And the junior formal was the first dance in which you were expected to have a date, at least in my school experience. And this terrified me because I was not good with girls. I was the kind of guy who, when I bought chocolates for Sarah Meanin for Valentine's Day, I brought them to her door, left them on her doormat, pushed the doorbell, and then ran in the other direction. I was the kind of guy who, if I was at a party and they began to play Spin the Bottle, I would run out of the room as if they were beginning to smoke marijuana. I was the kind of guy who, even if I went to summer camp and I met a girl who I knew I would never see again, if I was attracted to her, I would write her a poem and wait until the very last day before I was leaving to give her the poem. That way I wouldn't have to actually come face to face with her after she read it. That was how much I was scared of women, even at the age of, 10th grade. So, when the time came for the junior formal, my mother, knowing my trepidation around women, decided to enroll me in ballroom dancing lessons at Arthur Murray School of Dance in Yonkers. This was the kind of thing that she would do. She let me know after she'd enrolled me that this would be happening. And I was, of course, extremely afraid, but she reasoned with me that it would build my confidence, and I agreed to go. My first lesson was with a refined, suave Latina named Maria, dressed all in red, and she took me through my first lesson in foxtrot, the basic step of ballroom dance. I spent that first lesson mostly apologizing profusely as I stepped on her feet and bumped against her chest. But the miracle was in realizing that she was not going to leave just because I made a ton of mistakes. And from that, it just began to give me more confidence that I could keep on doing this. And I slowly began to pick up East Coast swing, foxtrot, salsa, merengue. I even experimented in rumba. Now, the dance was set for November, so I didn't have much time to get prepared. I needed a lot of practice. And every Friday night, Arthur Murray School of Dance held a social dance for its students and teachers, where you could go and practice your skills, showcase to a bunch of other people, and maybe learn a few new things. So I was definitely the youngest person there by far, by at least 10 years, but it actually had the odd effect of making me far less uncomfortable asking women to dance. Most of them being married anyway, so there was no real problem at all. And it was a great time for me. I loved these dances. Now, usually it was 70s pop, 80s pop, oldies, lots of things that you could dance your salsa and swing to pretty easily. Disco stuff. Then, one night, this song came on that no one quite knew what to do with. It was in Spanish, it had a techno beat, but it didn't fit for salsa, merengue, rumba, any of the traditional dances. And the techno beat was so kind of cartoonish that the teachers actually laughed when they heard it, and everybody wanted to take a water break. However, that night I heard something that reminded me of a dance from previous. And I decided to get on the dance floor and start trying the Your Own Personal Jesus dance to this new song. And something clicked. That time, as I was doing it, my previous dance partner got next to me and began trying to imitate me, and everybody watching us laughed. The next week, when I came back to dance, when that song came on, Maria told everyone on the dance floor, everybody line up and do what Dan is doing. And we lined up in rows and columns doing the Macarena dance for the first time, though it was not yet known by that name. Now, for better or for worse, the DJ at my junior formal did not play the Macarena. In the fall of '95, the Macarena was not yet all that popular. Yet my junior formal was a smash success. I danced swing to Michael Jackson with Kate Wolf, and I slow danced with my date Chrissy Grant. Incredible time. The Macarena itself stayed dormant for a while. It mostly stayed in Latin circles, until Los del Rio put out the English translation. And once that happened, it swept across the pop charts, and we began hearing talk about Macarena fever as 1996 came on. And lo and behold, one morning I see an article in my local paper, the Herald Statesman, a step-by-step guide to how to dance the Macarena, taught by the Arthur Murray School of Dance in Yonkers, New York. I open the page and I see Maria and the head of Arthur Murray School of Dance, Lino Powers, all in his tight pants, showing people in photographs what the Macarena looks like. Nowhere in this am I mentioned by name. Now, I could be resentful about this, but at the same time, I owe Arthur Murray School of Dance a lot. They gave me more confidence than I'd ever had as a dancer, and it is a confidence that I've never lost since. I love to dance. I love the feeling of being alive that I get through dance. And as for the gift of the Macarena, which you all now know the origins of, all I can say is, you're welcome.